Thank you. Perfect. You got it. Thank you. Gary, you want to pull up the PowerPoint because the first two slides are mine, and then you're on after that.
Oh, we got to share just a second. Okay, there you go.
If you would go ahead and go to the next slide, please. I just want to very briefly talk about the goals tonight. We want to provide all of you with specific information, specifically to the proposed dues increase for both the district and to Kiwanis International. And I too want to echo Linda's comments about welcoming Bob and Brad here too, because we look forward to their conversations. I intend to allot about 40 minutes for the district and 20 minutes for the Kiwanis International. I talked to Brad and Bob, and that seems to be about where we ended up last time, and it worked out pretty well. I'm going to ask that because we feel that everybody needs to operate from the same base of information. There's great value across the district and across the world, actually, that we all operate from the same base of information. And so we will be providing that. And I will tell you that the PowerPoint and the recording will be available to you when this is completed. Once the information has been given for the district, I will ask for any clarifying questions from those of you in attendance. A clarifying question might be something like this. You want to go back and revisit the where all our dues money goes to? You want to talk about the budgets for the last 10 years? You want to review just very briefly the slide that talked about membership. It's something that you may have missed and you just want a little clarification. They could be more specific. You might ask, why are our revenues down as much as they have been down? So we're asking for clarifying questions because we want to make sure everybody understands very, very clearly what it is that we're asking. And then finally, the last goal is that we really would appreciate if you say, you know, Gary, it would be helpful if we knew more about XYZ. And we will then take that request and make sure that information gets circulated, because the more we know, the better the decisions we're going to make on this. So Gary, if you'd go to the next slide, please. I've established a few meeting parameters, and I'm going to
hello? I mean, I can pull it off the buffet if you want. We usually make it all to order. Just I know you do. To be fresh for you guys, but
if you could all, thank you, Jerry, for muting yourself. We're going to limit this to 1 hour so that we just don't drone on and on. We will provide dues information both for the district and for the international. We will ask clarifying questions, and I ask that those questions be clear and concise, and if at all possible, avoid redundancies. And if you want to ask a question, you can use the Zoom function of raising your hand. You can physically raise your hand, but I might not see it, but somebody else will and let me know. Or if that doesn't work, you can use the chat box or just simply say, hey, Don, wake up. I have a question, and we'll make sure that we do that. And then the last is that I want to remind you that we really don't look at this meeting as a platform for debate. We feel that the discussions about the pros and cons of the dues increases belong at the club level and then eventually at the House of Delegates levels. But we want to make sure that there's quality information. So in terms of this tonight, we simply are providing information. If we have time, there may be some additional questions and discussions that we can address. But for now, I want to turn it over to Gary Lindgren, who's the chair of the District Finance Committee. Gary, they're all yours, buddy.
Thank you, Don. It's good to see everybody tonight. Also, I'd like to introduce our couple of other Finance Committee members. Don and I are on the committee. Kurt Reese is on the committee, and Sue Waldron is on the committee as well. Don and Kurt and Sue are all past governors, and I'm a trustee on the board. So just want to make that information out there. And the first item that we have on here is let me get this out of my way here. Here we go. This is our proposed budget that we have up. And we're showing 3 years that are pre-COVID, and 1 year, which was the 21-22 year, which was at the end of COVID. So the 2 years in the middle of COVID really was not similar in functionality as when we're out there traveling and meeting people and having meetings and so forth. COVID disrupted a lot of things, and that it disrupted our ability to be with all of you at your level of clubs and so forth. So when we look at this, this is the type of form we work with, and you'll see in here on the 17-18 budget year, we came in at $162,383 in revenue, and we had $52,564 in expenses, with a $9,819 carryover. In the next year, on the 18-19 year, we had $168,878 in income and $170,236 in expenses. So we were negative $1,358 that we had to take out of our reserves. Then in the year after COVID hit, for their 2 years, we had 21-22. We came in at $142,502 in income, and we had expenses of $184,770. So we had a $42,268 negative year. There again, we had to take that $42,268 out of reserves. What we're planning then is $137,250 in income this year. And under the column that's blank all the way down, because we don't have actual results, totaling up yet, we're showing $168,596. Now, those expense numbers that I mentioned, the 152, the 170, the 184, and now the 168, that shows us at about a 77% utilization of a budget. Every budget has a number, every line item in the budget has an amount, and our experience over the past years has been that we use 77% of what we budget. Some people say, well, why don't you just adjust the budget down and come in there? Well, because what we have is a lot of these line items are travel expenses for lieutenant governors, for the leadership group, the various meetings that they all have to go to and attend. And it's also getting to the international conventions to represent the district, and also to handle all of the operations of our district in Nebraska and Iowa. Some of the people that serve in these positions don't always turn in their expense reports. Some of them choose not to. And so that's why we're at a 77% level of utilization. So that's where that number comes from. When we take a look at, and I'm going to mention here, this is where the dues comes in at. District convention is in our numbers. You'll see here 23.5 is the planned income and expenses of 25. They're both in those figures earlier mentioned. But that's kind of a pass-through because that income comes from registrations. I will also say that right now, Linda has done a fantastic job with a group of members that are going out in the marketplace and asking for donations, and they're getting them. So, the registration and those donations that we get from individuals or clubs or corporate donations can help offset that expense of the district convention as well. There's another item there in bold, key leader program. We inherited that program from the district foundation. They were in charge of that in the past. And that 12.5 is planned registration income. And the 12.5 on the expense side is the expenses that would be incurred. So that's a wash as well. But both of those are in that number. When you take a look at all of the numbers in the budget, the biggest issue comes down to the fact that we've lost our membership. We've had just a little over 3,100 member loss since 2006 when we raised the dues to $25. So that's a big number. If you take that 3,100 out, 3,100 members in times $25, that's a lot of revenue that we've lost because of decrease in membership. What we're trying to look at this year, and we're starting to get there. Don't know if we're going to make this number. We're looking at a membership growth of 500. We started the year at 3,900 members. If we can get to 500, we'll be at 4,400 members. If we get the dues increases that we want, which is the $15 dues increase in the district, add that to our current 25, our dues then would be $40 in the district per member. We would be at 176, and that 176 will pay for our expenses as we showed on that slide previous to that. So that's what we're trying to, our objective is to get to that number. Here's a graph that shows where we've been at. This is all the way back into 97, 98. And you can see that's a continually decline. Membership loss in 21, 22 was 4.6%. Average club size of 26%, or 26 members, excuse me. Average decrease in club size over the last decade, last 10 years, we dropped 10 members on average per club. Clubs below charter strength, 21.7% of our clubs are below charter strength, which charter strength now has been set at 15 members. Percentage down from the highest membership, which was back in 97, 98. It's dropped to date 57.9%. So when you lose that kind of members, that's what happens to your revenue income. The projected dues going forward, and the left-hand column here, this is where we are at today. International fees, magazine is $8. Liability insurance, which includes cyber insurance, is $18. Officers and directors insurance, that's $4. Now that's officer and director insurance for all clubs. And that's, you know, we're all getting that benefit. And our liability insurance is paid for our clubs through this. Current international dues is $52. Current district dues is $25. So we have a 107 currently per member annual dues and fees. The projection is to KI to raise theirs to $30, add a $30 to it, so it would be 82. The district would add 15, it would be 40. So we would be at $152 annually per member if all that gets passed. Now keep in mind that that $30 on the international side and the 15 on the district side has to be voted on. So on the international, those that are going to the International District Convention up in Minneapolis, there will be a House of Delegates. They will be the people that will decide how much that number is going to be. And then in the district convention, same thing. In August, we'll have our district convention, and the House of Delegates there will vote on that number of $15. If you look at this and it all comes through the way we anticipate, the calculated daily expenditure per person is less than 42 cents a day. So that's not bad for a organizations such as Kiwanis to be out there serving our community and serving the children of the world. An eye on the budget, cost reductions, and annual revenue generation. We've looked at reducing costs in postage, we went to electronic newsletters, elimination of duplicate directory mailings, electric bill paying, and virtual communication like Zoom. Travel and mileage, more virtual meetings, hybrid meeting attendance wherever we can. And I'd like to mention in mileage that the district only pays 35 cents a mile to the people that have travel expenditures. The federal government rate is 65 cents a mile. So we've never changed that item for at least the last decade. Restructured mid-year conference, one-day format, reduce overall expenses. They're again asking for more donations from corporate and sponsorships to help offset some of those expenses in the mid-year, and then of course for decon. Printing, decided to do in-house, more efficiency, size and quantity reductions. We don't go outside to pay the higher rates for printing of our products. Continued cost reductions, local vendors when applicable. That's what I mentioned earlier, asking local vendors for contributions or sponsorships for the district convention and other district events. I would like to mention here, like I said earlier on that district convention, I know Linda, I believe that team that she's working with on that, going out and trying to get those contributions. I think they're a little over $14,000 right now on that decon. And that's really going to help offset that expense that we'll encounter for the district convention. Another item, the Kiwanis in your community, that marketing campaign that's out there, that is supported by the district to go on. That's the corridor between Des Moines and Omaha. But all of the funds for that, it was a goal of $10,000 expenditure to do that, with a lot of in-kind contributions from the company that's doing it with us. But I understand that that's close to $15,000 collected towards that as well. So there again, not a dime out of the district's budget. One-time government forgivable plan back in the COVID timeframe. We applied for a paycheck protection program and we received it. So we used it to offset our single employee. Your dues, your district, district office, salary and benefits, equipment, supplies, postage, software apps, internet, phone, printing, financial audit and tax returns, and archive storage. The financial audit and tax returns, we negotiated with the auditing firm that does that for us, and we were able to get a cut in the cost of that because we're doing a compilation. And also they, in turn, added the district foundation in and got a reduction for them as well. The travel, mileage reimbursement for district, regional, divisional officers, that's what I mentioned earlier, 35 cents a mile. 30 cents a mile less than the government allowed rate. Service leadership program, support and reimbursements for action clubs, Circle K, Key Clubs, Builders Clubs, and K Kids. We have administrators of each of these SLPs at the district level. They're there to help the various clubs get these youth clubs up and running and started, and working with them and supporting them. And that's what those people in those positions work and have an expense account as well. Training and education at the district, region, and division leaders levels. We've gone to Zoom training. We've done some hybrids. We would like to see in-person training again, because we feel that face-to-face, people can ask the proper questions they need on training, whether it be a treasurer, whether it be a secretary, whether it be a president or a board member. in those types of training processes. Lieutenant governor training when new lieutenant governors come in. So that happens every year. Meeting expenses. District board. We don't just meet. We have 2 meetings a year typically, for sure, and then we have special meetings in between if necessary. Lieutenant governors. I mentioned earlier, there's a training session for all new lieutenant governors coming in each year so that they hit the ground running. And there is also additional training on that in that mid-year one. Service leadership program administrators, and then district committees. They're all volunteers. They spend their time away from their clubs to work in the district and provide services to all the clubs in the district. District convention and other event support. Member resources. You know, our district administrator, Lisa, she's at anybody's beck and call to answer questions and help them through whatever questions they may have. And she's very good at it. So that's a resource that's available there. Also, the leadership team, they're available as well. Key Leader, another great program for training young people to be good leaders in the future. That's one that we do once a year, and it's really a value to those youth that attend. Scholarships and grants, they're given out for some of those youth in their different programs as well. Membership booths. Right now, and I think Linda mentioned it earlier, that she's been to Grinnell, trying to recruit and set up a new club there, but also going out to existing clubs and helping existing clubs to get new members. We'll have a team that can hit the ground and go into your community and help you do that. You've got some responsibilities. They are there to help, and they can work a day or 2 days to try and boost and get you some additional members within your clubs. Because if we're going to grow our revenue, we have to grow our membership. That's the only way we're going to get it. The monthly district newsletter. A lot of good information there. And a lot of good information from the clubs on what they do, how they're doing their work in their communities. And you can get a lot of good information, a lot of good ideas from what each and every other club does as well. Monthly club announcements newsletter. The club officer buzz. The active website. If you're looking for something, that website's got a wealth of information out there in all the different categories. Social media, Facebook and Instagram, is being widely used and getting better all the time. District office communication and assistance. That's where, like I mentioned earlier, Lisa's there. She's communicating and she's available to help you in whatever question that you may have. And if she doesn't have the answer, she'll find somebody that does. Club visits from division, region, and district officials. You know, your governor travels constantly. And I, for one, can't understand how they can actually get around to all the different places they get to without losing a lot of sleep and sitting in a vehicle behind a windshield long periods of time. But they do. Your lieutenant governors that travel around in your divisions. And then, of course, the regionals like myself, when we go around to different areas in the district as well. In-person virtual training opportunities, very, very important. And that training process is good for clubs to get up to speed on how to run their clubs more efficiently and effectively. Club leadership chats. I know we've had several of those in the past. We're going to continue those going forward, where you'll have the treasurer's chat, secretary's chat, president's chat, and so forth. There again, that's on Zoom. And so there's no traveling going on without any of those. Other districts in the area, that they're charging right now, and they're anywhere from $26 to $55, but good share of these are in the same range as what we're projecting to be. We're at 25, we're projecting at 15, so we'd be at 40. So you can look at that. Wisconsin, Upper Michigan at 43, Southwest is at 40, Rocky Mountain at 46, Pacific 46. Ohio's only 26, Montana at 40, Michigan at 44, Tennessee at 40, Kentucky, Tennessee 20, Kansas 28. Kansas does not have a full-time administrator. They have a volunteer administrator. They only have 1,425 members totally in the district. Indiana at 35, California and Nevada, Hawaii, that's the highest one, 55. Texas, Oklahoma at 40, Missouri, Arkansas, they're projecting to go to 25. Eastern Iowa at 36. So we're projecting to go to 40. So that's where we're at on those numbers. That's what it is for what we have here, Don. So
thank you, Gary. You know, while you're reducing and taking the slides off before Bob joins us, before I became involved at the district and at the district level as a trustee many years ago, I never had a sense of what the district was. And I got to thinking, when I was governor last year, I had 85 employees. I had 84 volunteers who had been expertly trained in everything from the IRS to child protection, youth protection guidelines, to how to do recruitment, every single aspect. And it takes training, time, and resources. Now, they're all volunteers, but they also have expenses. And I never recognized that we were so big. We had so many folks, and that's good. And we stand ready, willing, and anxious to assist all clubs. While we have about 10 minutes, it's time to entertain some clarifying questions. And so if you have questions that you would like to ask Gary or any members of our finance committee, either put them in chat, put your hand up, or just shout it out. And don't let us off easy. I mean, you can ask some tough questions here. Gary can ask, all the tough questions go to Gary. So
yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah. No questions? You guys are awful nice to us. Well, yeah. Oh, Dale, go ahead. Yes, sir. Take your. There you go.
I just want to be sure that I have this correct. The district component of the dues is being projected to be $40 for next year. And then what was the international component of the dues? And then what would be the total? Because I think it added up to $152. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Gary, you want to go back to that slide?
Right. Let me go back to there. Oh, just went right. There you go.
There it is right there. So go through that one more time for Dale.
Okay, Dale, currently it's this column right here.
Right.
We're at 107 total, which is fees and dues.
Right.
International dues is 52, ours is 25. But then these three above, those are all fees for those services. Then the international is projecting a $30 increase, so they would go to 82. And the district is projecting a $15 increase, so we would go to 40. That would take us from 107 to 152 per member.
Right. Okay.
And at 152, calculation is on 365 days a year, that's less than 42 cents a day.
Right.
Gary, this is Linda.
Yes.
So I don't know about Kiwanis international dues, but I would like to just reiterate that it's the last dues increase that we had in the Nebraska-Iowa district was 2006.
That's correct.
So it's been quite a while, and I think
17 years.
Yeah. Thank you.
And all of us know, based on our own personal households, that 17 years, like it or not, things went up. And, there was inflation. In some years wasn't a lot. Other years there was more. This last year came in between 6 and 7. So not raising these dues for 17 years, I think was doing well on our part as far as controlling expenses.
I agree.
And a declining area of membership every year.
Gary, I know the answer to this question. I'm going to ask it for the good of the group. We have been fortunate to have some cash reserve, but we have been deficit spending on our budgets for quite a number of years. How long can we go on our cash reserve before we run out?
Well, the projection that we've looked at, if we stay at that 77% utilization, we could conceivably, if we continue to lose membership, we could conceivably be out of the reserves within 5 years.
Thank you.
And it's never a good place to use reserves to balance a budget. Reserves are there for emergency cases or cases where you want to take on something new and different, and you use the reserves to do that. You don't normally want to use reserves on a continual basis to try and balance your budget.
Thank you. Are there other Yes, Rebecca. Hi.
Hi.
The second time this week,
I know. How lucky am I?
What can we answer for you?
Do most individual local clubs charge local dues on top of this 152? I don't know. I can only speak for Lincoln Center.
Some do, some don't. My club up in Mason City does not. We always try to find an alternative route of getting the additional funds that we need in our local, and we've been lucky enough to do that. There again, we look at kind of think outside the box, if you will, to find that additional revenue at the club level.
Thank you.
And Becky, my home club adds $10, 5 that go to the Kiwanis Children's Fund and 5 to the local foundation. We built that into our dues structure so that that donation automatically happens. Now, we've been subsidizing in the past 6-8 years because those minimum amounts have gone up. But our club just chooses to add those donations as part of our annual dues. So they're all over the board. Many clubs charge for food, because they may meet in a place that regularly serves smorgasbords and they have to meet a certain requirement. And so they build their food budget into their dues structures. So it's going to impact clubs in a variety of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question, Rebecca. I would mention too, in our club up in Mason City, we do charge for food. We have you build it right into the quarterly dues is what we do. Now do we have 100% participation at every meeting? No, but we're running right at about 60%. So that 40% that doesn't come and eat, that money is money that we saved, but we still have it. So there again, that's an avenue that we have there. But our annual dues at the club level for our club members, which is food included, and the dues and fees that we have, is $300 a year, $75 a quarter. Okay. We're lucky enough to have our food supplied by Hy-Vee in because we're in an off-site location, and they cater it, and they have not raised our food prices above $6.50 a person for 4 years.
And Becky, I just want to tell you, if you ever want to go to Mason City, they always have a giant pan of crispy bacon.
Absolutely.
It is always a giant pan of crispy bacon. Just an FYI.
We have in our bylaws that it's a must that we have bacon. It's written in.
Do we have other clarifying questions? We're off the track here a little.
Yeah, we
My
are.
apologies. Any other clarifying questions before we move to Kiwanis International? Well, I will tell you.
Is my
Yeah,
picture showing up yet?
There
Hi,
you are.
Jerry.
So I've been listening with my camera off. And I don't know if there's a hard and fast answer, but I know that one of the knee-jerk responses is going to be, well, if we raise the dues, then it'll be harder to attract new members. So I'm curious, it's been a long time since we've raised dues at the district level. Do we have anything to support that notion that raising dues will make it harder to bring in new members? Has there been a decline after a dues increase historically? And if so, how long does it take to cover that or to recover that? And I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a technical question without any warning. But just curious as to how that fear might have materialized in the past.
Well, here, I just put the slide up again, which shows the membership since 97, 98, all the way up to 21, 22. And in 2006, which is right here, that's where we were, 7,000 members. Okay. The beginning
So we were
of this
going
year,
down before that.
and we're going down before that, and we're continually going down since then. So
Okay.
it wasn't necessarily due to the fact the dues went up. It's the fact we lost too many members.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I did not interpret that visual with my question in mind, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jerry. I just want to remind all of you that if you have questions or you want us to attend one of your meetings, we are more than willing to attend. Get a hold of Gary, myself, Linda, Lisa. Get a hold of any of us. We may attend by Zoom. We may attend by in person. I was just asked to attend one of the clubs here in Lincoln next week, 2 weeks. And so we're happy to come and answer questions. We feel like that you need to have all the information you can, and it has to be understood so that you can make an informed decision. But right now, I want to move.
Kurt Rice has his hand up, Don.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kurt, I didn't see that. You're on my screen too, buddy. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Just a comment for Jerry. I do remember when we raised the dues the last time, and that same concern was expressed then. There was nothing to prove that relationship existed. There was nothing to prove that raising dues caused a lower membership number. So
thank you. I'm really glad to hear that, because I know that is going to be a knee-jerk reaction, and I wanted to be able to look historically as we move forward.
Yep. There was no correlation back when we raised them the last time.
And in fact, Jerry, if you look at Gary's chart, it actually plateaued for a year or more before it dropped again after the dues were increased. So
here's 2006 right here. And this is 2008, 2009.
So it plateaued. It stayed at 7,000. So just the opposite happened. It stayed the same. Well, I want to give Dale, last question.
Okay, last question. I haven't seen anywhere in this. Do we have a breakdown of our total membership age-wise? And also, do we know at what age do most of the members actually join at? Is it a situation where they join about retirement age, or do they join at the age of 30? Or, do we have any breakdown on any of that information?
Dale, we do have that data. It's not in this PowerPoint. I will tell you the average age of Kiwanians in Nebraska-Iowa district is around 55 years old, which is younger than I would have guessed. We can find that information. I'll put it on the list for additional information that might be helpful. It is not built into this PowerPoint, however.
You're a bunch of youngsters. I think our KI average is 61 the last I checked. So.
Well, that's because you're a bunch of old guys, you know.
You eat well out in the hinterland.
Well, I want to turn it over to Brad and to Bob. And Bob, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Bob is the CFO of Kiwanis International. And Bob, do you want us to leave this PowerPoint up here? We have a couple of slides
Sure.
up here. I don't know if you want us to leave those up or not.
Yeah, leave those up. I'll go through them real fast, and I'll go through a couple of slides I have. But I'd really like for this to be more conversation. So just interject any questions you have as I go through the slides. And I just want to pause 1 minute and just compliment Gary once again. You did an outstanding job on your presentation, clear cut. It really puts me to shame, and I just have to commend you. You know your finances backwards and forwards. So
Thank you.
yeah. So as discussed, international dues, they're being proposed a $30 dues adjustment. And the last adjustment or increase, I call it an increase. That's what it is. So the last dues increase was in 2015. And at that time, you may recall, we actually went forward with a $15 increase and it got adjusted down to 10, with the understanding that there was also a COLA proposal, cost of living adjustment proposal, being offered at the same time, which the delegates voted down. So we got the $10, but we didn't get the COLA, which now we're hearing from many club members that they would like to have had a COLA adjustment rather than one big increase every 10 years or so. So that's what's being proposed by the House. And if we go to the next slide, I think the district did an excellent job reading through all the literature that's been published by International and summarizing, how the dues are used. I think you guys really did your homework. There's really nothing that I can really add to this other than just to comment that we have been spending more money on legal services than we ever had in the past. We're involved in some litigation that's taken place. That's part of our insurance program. So when a district or a club is sued, International takes on the responsibility to pay out all those legal expenses. And the other increase that we're seeing is in cybersecurity and our insurance program. We were fearful that we were actually going to have some carve-out provisions in our insurance policies that would no longer cover sexual abuse. We were successful in keeping those in the policy, right? But we're seeing increases with our premiums, which you would expect, especially with everything that's been in the news the last couple of years with youth serving organizations. So those are two big drivers of our cost, in addition to just global inflation. And then let's see what's on the next slide here. Oh, expense reductions. I've got a nice slide to kind of illustrate how we have been managing costs, and I'll show that to you in just a minute. But you're right in what you said here. We have looked at contracts. We've cut out some services. We've renegotiated agreements. And we were committed to cutting $1 million out of our budget this year. And I'm happy to report we're at 500,000. So we're halfway there and halfway through the year. So we're on track of cutting $1 million out of the current year budget. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, this is a nice thing that you guys put together. I have one very similar. I'll show you. It's a comparison to our peer organization. You can see, that we would be in line with Rotary, with Optimist, and that we'd actually be one of the lower cost service organizations. And I've got a slide to kind of illustrate that further here in a couple of minutes. And let's see, what else do you have here? I think that's about it.
That's
right?
all. That's all I have. Bob.
Let me share some information. Right, let me start off with our expenses. let's see here. Just 1 minute there. Right, it doesn't dispute.
Well, you're pulling up your slide. I'll just get back to Jerry's comment that KI, similar to your district, has also found that when we've had dues increase, that we haven't really had any abnormal membership decreases following that. But again, the last one was in 2015. So, and the economy is a little bit different now. So.
Thanks, Brad.
Do you see my slide deck?
I see it. Yeah.
Shows a red line and a blue line.
We got it.
Okay, yep. Excellent. Yeah, I've lost you here for a moment. So what this slide does, it kind of shows our expenses, which is the red line. And I started keeping this when I first started working at Kiwanis back in 2012. So I went back and pulled all of our audited statements and started charting it out, and then I just keep it updated. You can see we peaked in 2006 with expenses at around 21 million. And then you can see from our audited financial statements what our actual expenses have been every year since 2005. And you can see it's peaked, it's gone down, it's peaked a little bit, but we're still below our high of 2006. And now, that tells me that I think our board and the leadership team has done a good job managing cost, right? Despite really having to cut many services during the same period of time. There's been some peaks like in 2015, and that's their 100-year anniversary and the start of the formula, right? And then in 2018, 2019, it kind of peaked again, and that was a result of really investing in youth protection, having a complete audit done of all of our policies and procedures, revamping our policies. And it's also when we started bringing on some legal staff to help out with some issues that we were having with some litigation with some of our districts. And you can see it's peaking again. So it dropped way down during the pandemic years, down to about 17 million. And now we're returning to normal with travel, with education, and we're starting to see a peak. And we're forecasting that's going to continue to increase despite cost-cutting measures. Just global inflation is having a real effect on the organization. Now, to put this in some sort of perspective, I charted the blue line. And the blue line is just taking the 2005 number and applying cost of living adjustments to it. So if International didn't do anything and kept services the same, didn't reduce spending, our expenses would be closer to 30 million than 20 million for fiscal year 2022. So it kind of illustrates that the organization's done a good job in cost containment and cost cutting. Now, on the flip side, when you compare this to our revenue, which is, if I can get this slide up. There it goes. Okay. So this is our dues income. And I went back to 2010 and started charting it. And you can see because of membership decline, we're seeing a reduction in revenue. Now, that not only does membership decline affect dues income, which is this slide, but it affects all of our revenue streams. It affects donations to our foundation. It affects retail operations. It affects registration income for the convention. So across the board, we're seeing a decline in revenue. But since most of our revenue comes from dues, I want to just illustrate how there's been a decline in revenue. And then it peaked. There was a dues increase that was voted on in 2015, and then it took effect in 2016. And you can see it bumped up. Then in 2017, it actually increased again. So that's that kind of illustrates to me, we don't lose members when we do a dues increase. If anything, we should see that decline even faster, and we don't. We see it increasing slightly and then starting to decline. And you can see it started a rapid decline in 2019 and then during the pandemic years. And now it's kind of flat, but we anticipate it's going to continue to decline. So when you compare the revenue to the expenses, you can clearly see that while we've had good cost containment, really what we have is a revenue problem, not an expense problem. So what the organization has done, there's been a strategy in place for a number of years. If I were to chart out our operating surpluses or deficits year after year, I would have, going back 10, 15 years, of nothing but deficits. It's been our strategy to incur deficit spending year after year. And that deficit spending's been covered by investment returns. So there was, an understanding, right, a strategy actually, that we didn't want to go forward with a dues increase if our investment returns was covering our deficits. And not only do we have a good investment strategy and investment policy, we were not only covering those deficits, but we were actually growing our reserves at the same time. So our investment returns has been masking a problem that we've had for a number of years, and that's that we operate at a deficit. And to kind of illustrate that, I put together another slide here. Well, let's look at this one first. So this slide here shows our investment portfolio. And you can see our investment portfolio was 22 million, and it grew to almost 32 million in 2021 fiscal year. And then you see the rapid decline. It went down $10 million in fiscal year 2022, and now we're at 19 million. Right? So the decline, right, has been because of the, Wall Street's performance, right? We've lost quite a bit of money in our investment portfolio, and we've taken money out. How much money have we taken out? Well, that's what this slide kind of shows. That's what the yellow bar is. Kind of shows you how much money we've taken out of our reserves year after year to cover deficit spending. So you can see during these years, we were taking out money, right, and still growing our reserves. So it kind of explains why the board took on the strategy of not wanting to move forward with a dues increase. You can argue it both ways. As a CFO, I don't like to have deficits. I like the comment Gary made earlier. You really can't operate at a deficit, right? Well, I would say you can, but it's not something you can do ongoing, right? You just simply can't do that. But we've been pretty successful, but we're at a point now where we have to move forward with an increase. And I was thinking the board probably would have moved forward sooner if it wasn't for the pandemic. They probably would have moved forward with some sort of proposal back in 2021. But because of the pandemic, we didn't. So I think one more, stealing these slides from Stan, so whoever's going to be at the convention is going to see the same two slides here. So don't tell them I stole these slides from them. But you can see where we're going to be compared to our peer organizations. I like this slide a lot because it shows that we've not priced ourselves out of the market. We're still very competitive. One disadvantage we do have is Kiwanis is the only service organization that I'm aware of that has the tiered dues, which means clubs in those nations pay considerably less than a U.S. club pays. So I need like 2 or 3 of those clubs to make up for one club, you know, in a Tier A nation. But that's the strategy that the House of Delegates implemented. They prefer to have it that way. And so, you know, there's no proposal moving forward to eliminate that. I'm going to stop sharing here. Hopefully there's some questions that you may have.
Clarifying questions for Bob. And once again, you know, let's not let him off easy. Come on, you know.
Brad takes the hard questions for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, Brad, let's get Brad the questions.
This is a good dress rehearsal for Bob. For convention.
Anybody have any questions?
This is your organization, so I want to be as transparent as I can be, share as much information with you. If there's something that you're not clear about, feel free to ask the question.
Bob, while they're thinking of questions, I appreciate the last couple of slides that you've added. That was very helpful. Thank you. And thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate that. And you and our good friend Brad. So any clarifying questions? We have about 2 minutes left.
I was going to add on real quick. I believe Bob can correct me if I'm wrong, but actually the House of Delegates twice in recent years has declined a proposal to tie an increase to the cost of living. So I think almost every district, all 7 that I service, if every district and KI could get $1 more every year, we'd probably be well off, you know.
Yeah, they have voted it down twice, and I suspect a club or a district will bring it forth probably next year, because many members have brought it to our attention that they would prefer it that way.
I have a question.
Kim, does that answer your question, Kim? Kim had ended that basically that same question about COLA. Any other questions? We have about a minute left.
Thomas.
Yeah, Tom.
Is the increase in dues going to end up giving us a balanced budget, or are we still going to continue the deficit spending?
We will continue the deficit spending.
Okay.
I had proposed a higher amount to our Board of Trustees, and what I proposed, they didn't think the House would have an appetite for. We're still going to have to reduce spending by at least $1 million. If we get less than $30, we're going to have to cut even deeper. And so many of the things that was on the prior slide, some of the services, we will have to take a hard look at all of those and decide, you know, which one of those doesn't add as much value as some of the others, and we're probably going to have to cut them.
How much is that cut's going to cost the local clubs, the services that we're going to lose? Any idea?
It all depends on what services are going to be cut. I think I may have mentioned before when I was talking to the group, some things that the clubs in North America may not find very appealing or very useful. Some of the international clubs may think, no, just the opposite. We have to keep it. We have to do certain educational events. So it's going to be difficult for our Board of Trustees to prioritize, because there's such conflicting, you know, opinions on what programs bring value to the clubs.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we have reached our limit in time. I want to thank everybody. I want to especially thank Bob and Brad for being here. Appreciate that from Kiwanis International. I want to thank Gary Lindgren and the Finance Committee for all of your good work on this. And especially I want to thank Governor Linda for chairing all of this, and especially Lisa for guiding us through all of this and making sure we dot all the I's and cross all the T's. So thank you, everybody, so much. I appreciate it. We're heading into the Memorial Day weekend. I want you to have a grand holiday. So take care, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. See y'all.